Hey, Deep Divers. We just want to say thank you so much for tuning into episode 4 of the Deep Dive. Just a disclaimer, some technical difficulties took place, and unfortunately, we have lost the video of this episode, but the audio is still rich in content. And although you can't see us physically, we will not be silenced, especially around the topic of Black Lives Matter and the trauma that Black women deal with in society. So thank you for tuning in.
The content is so important that even though we lost the visual, we still wanted to share this episode with you. So we hope this is a conversation starter for your household. And please comment, like, subscribe, and we'll see you at the next episode.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. I'm Kay, and this is
E.
All right. Today in our conversation, we're going to talk a little bit about a lot of the things that we've seen in our world in terms of the injustice with Black lives and systemic and institutionalized racism. We just felt that it was very important as two Black women to not only speak on our perspective of the issue, but also to honor like what is happening and really speak up and have a voice with that. So a lot of our conversation today is going to be centered around that, and we'll be deep diving into that a little bit more in today's topic.
All right, awesome. So, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Freddie Gray, Trayvon Martin, Philando Castile, Michael Brown, and Eric Garner have all become household names. But what about Kayla Moore, Rekia Boyd, Natasha McKenna, Tanisha Anderson, Pamela Turner, or Chantel Davis? These unarmed Black women died at the hands of police officers, but their deaths received neither the same media attention nor widespread public rage as seen most recently in current demonstrations. The lack of palpable concern for Black women has not gone unnoticed by Black women. The experience of Black women with police brutality is lost in the national conversation. While Black men are indeed at a higher risk of dying at the hands of police, Black women are increasingly being stopped by police and experience physical assault, sexual violence, and death at rates that contradict media coverage of the issue. A 2018 study showed that nearly 60% of Black women killed by police were unarmed during the incident. Police violence against Black people is a collective experience, and we have to be intentional about lifting up the stories and experiences of all members of our Black community. Black women are more likely than any other racial or gender group to go unrecognized or unheard because we live at the intersection between two marginalized groups. When society challenges sexism, it's typically centered around white women experiences. When race is at the table, the discussion is frequently centered around Black men. So today's conversation is to bring light to the experience of being a Black woman in America because we can no longer be invisible. So with that, how you doing, sis? What has the past few weeks been like for you?
Yes. So, all right.
That was heavy, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. I mean, at one point, so when all of this, the most recent events of racial injustice in terms of like Black Lives Matter and the death of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud, like, Arbery, like that's honestly, it was my birthday week. And I purposefully pushed it to the back because I was like, I can't plug into this right now. I need to plug into celebration. I need to plug into joy, happiness. I'm going to be 29. I need to plug into like all of that. So birthday came and gone. And then the weekend hit and I needed to plug in because I was like, I really need to see what's happening and like really take on, like not take on, but just really like see what's happening. So I'm on Instagram and I promise you it was probably like for hours at this point, and my heart was broken, absolutely broken. I cried a lot. I felt the need. The first thing I felt, I always feel this way when this happens. The first thing I feel is, why don't they like us? Like what? I just don't understand. Why is the hate so real that you have to kneel on a man's neck for 8 whole minutes, or plus. Like, why is it that real? Like, why is they and to do it casually? Because I feel like not a lot of people are talking about how casual he kneeled with his hand in his pocket, chilling. Like, yeah, I'm just on a black man's neck, whatever. Like, why do you hate us so much? It's just so easy for you to do that. So the anger came. And then I was heartbroken by my community. Like, I just feel like we're like, not feel like, I know that as a black community, we are just phenomenal people. Like, I mean, like, where would the United States be without us? Let's be 100% real. They steal everything from us and we
Facts.
still reinvent. We still reinvent. We're like, all right, you want that? Cool. Go ahead. We're going to reinvent this. And then it's popping. And then they want that too. And then it's popping and they want something else. It's crazy. Like, the fabric of America wouldn't be America without the black and brown skin. Um, so it broke my heart just to be like, dang, we really still doing this. We're really still out here. And after the anger, I as you know, a Christian woman, I just like thought about God, and I thought about like, we need you. Like, we need you. Not to say like where you at, because I know he's here. I know God is around. I know he's seeing. I know he is, you know, he's seeing. He's amongst us or whatever. But I was just like, where are you? We're broken. We need you. Our hearts hurt. My heart hurts. Like, this hurts. This really, really hurts. It hurts to feel hated for no reason. It hurts to feel hated for the color of my skin. It hurts. So I thought a lot about that, and then a gospel song came into my head, and I just posted with the gospel song in the background, just to say like this sucks, but just know that at the end of the day, God is going to get victory out of this, even though it doesn't feel like it. And not to dismiss or diminish the feelings and the pain of our Black community. But I just, in the moment, felt more like inspiring, encouraging, uplifting. I went to work on Monday, and that's the same approach I took. I emailed my team. I'm a dean of instruction at a school. I emailed my team first thing in the morning to just empower them and remind them, like, you're in front of Black and brown kids virtually. I stand before you, but you stand before them. And I just want to thank you for the work that you do. I want to thank you for affirming our Black and brown babies, for reminding them that they matter, like all of that. I had to let them know where I stood on the issue as their leader, and that I'm rocking with them full time. And like, I just felt more in the space of encouraging my team, encouraging my peers, my friends, even you, Esther. Like, I know we watched church together on Sunday, and you know, at the end of it, you felt you had a feeling about it, but my feeling was more like empowerment and coming together and all that stuff. Later on in the week, that shifted, which I will talk a little bit more about later on, but my initial feelings were just heartbreak, anger, and then ended up being inspiration and empowerment. And like, how can I lift my Black people up? Like, how can I amplify Black voices for all to see? Especially in my role as a school leader, like, how can I amplify the voices of my Black teachers and my Black and brown kids that I teach, that they teach, and that I've once taught. So that's kind of where my feelings lie right now.
No, that's real. I mean, I can understand all of that. I mean, I know for me, very heavy week. Like, it was, I think like yesterday is the first day I actually started to feel. I mean, I don't just want to say okay, because it's like, what does that really mean? But like a normal, I guess. But definitely a very heavy week. Like, yeah, after church on Sunday, I was really uneasy, like
Yeah.
so uneasy. And church had a powerful and great message. I think for me, it was like because when it comes to this conversation, it's not a one shoe size fits all approach. Like, it's really like yes and I think for me, the messaging in church was like one part, but the systemic aspect of the conversation was missing. And so I was really struggling with that piece, because I think like um yeah, I mean, for me, the heaviness feelings comes from that, like, I didn't watch the video because I just can't. Like, for my own mental health, I cannot and will not. I've done, after Philando Castile, I said to myself,
Yes.
I
Oh
will
my God.
never ever watch one of those videos
Yeah.
again, because I
Mhm.
can't. At the same time, I still read articles and I still knew what was going on, and just it's just tough. And so it's like, on one hand, it's like there's that, and then the other piece of it is that, like, being Black in this country and then being a Black woman in this country is hard as hell. Like, it is so difficult, and I am just sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like, it is not just about this situation, it is just a collective of situations, from the small ones like the Central Park ish situation to things like the police brutality. I am so tired and over it. Like, and I think too, what is hard for me is that a lot of people still think that racism is purely just calling somebody a racial slur, or when somebody you tell somebody they're racist, they're like, "Oh, I'm not racist." Why? Because they didn't call you a racial slur, or they're not a member of the KKK. I mean, as far as you know, right? But like, that's how a lot of people just kind of think of it as, and it's like that is one part of racism, but the systemic and institutional racism that shows up in our lives, in institutions and society, from like wealth gap, employment, housing discrimination, um, incarcerations, infant mortality, like all these different things are extremely real, and we operate and live and work in these systems every single day. And the trauma that it takes on you as a being, as a person, to have to deal with that all the time is exhausting. So then on top of that, to have somebody so callously and so evil and vile execute a man in public in that way, it was just like, yo, my soul just cannot. Like, after church, I literally spent, I want to say, like almost 5 hours praising and worshiping, just to try to reset my soul. Like, I even earlier today attended a meditation, like healing thing. Like, it was I forgot the name of it, but it was like a healing meditation thing to just like restore my soul, because I think my soul is just so sad. And the part that really broke it for me is not just the collective of it all, but also just to know that that man spent his last moments crying for his mother. That like messed me up, and all I could think was, yo, thank God his mom is dead, because if she was alive, like how do you survive that? Like, how do you come back
as the mom? Yeah, I don't know.
So yeah, I say all that to say that, like, I'm over it. Like, change needs to come, and change needs to come now, and I can't keep doing this. I really can't.
Yeah, I feel you. I completely feel you.
So one of the things, we wanted to highlight in this conversation, because I see this all over social media. You say Black Lives Matter, and here comes somebody with the hashtag All Lives Matter or hashtag Blue Lives Matter. And we really just wanted to take a moment to just highlight why we say Black Lives Matter. What people don't know is that, okay, for those of you who may not be aware, the whole hashtag Black Lives Matter started in 2013 after the acquittal of George Zimmerman for the murder of Trayvon, for murdering Trayvon Martin. And it was created to highlight and speak out against police brutality and systemic racism that causes deaths like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. So Black Lives Matter is not to say that blue lives don't matter or that all lives don't matter. It's just saying that, hey, this population, Black lives, right now needs the focus to be on them. It's literally like showing up to the AIDS walk and be like, hey, breast cancer matters. Who said all diseases didn't matter? All diseases matter. Exactly. But today we're highlighting AIDS, so that's why we're walking to raise money for AIDS. It's really just that simple. Now the pop-up, the hashtag Say Her Name is, becoming more and more popular, and people also don't understand why people are saying hashtag Say Her Name and why that's different from Black Lives Matter.
Right. Yep.
And honestly, the only difference, it's the same thing. It's just it was created to raise awareness about the number of women and girls who are also killed by law enforcement. Like, at the beginning of this episode, I talked about how the media doesn't cover the killings of Black women at the same level that Black men do. And even with that, Black men still, there's so many cases that go unheard and unreported. So we always are fighting to be seen and be heard, even in death.
Right, exactly.
So that's the only difference. So the
Mhm.
hashtag was created so we can also highlight these women.
Right, exactly. It's not to diminish the Black Lives Matter movement either. It's just, as Esther was mentioning, like there's a population that is being unseen. So we need to hashtag and bring awareness through these movements, that population of people. And in this case, with the Say Her Name movement, that's women. Yes, Black Lives Matter, and Black women's lives matter too. And we see all too often that after we hear a story about a Black woman who has been you know, has died at the hands of the police, we no longer, it kind of like, it comes up in the news, we say her name like the first couple of days, and then we don't say her name anymore, and then a Black man dies and we're saying his name forever. And like, both are important. We need to say his name and say her name, but we cannot forget to say her name. So that is one of those things, like it's a part of the movement to remember to say her name. Just like how Black Lives Matter, we have to remember to say the names of the women who are not getting as much coverage or not being seen, like Esther mentioned, even in death.
And you know what's ironic is that the Black Lives movement, Black Lives Matter movement was started by 3 women. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's very interesting that it was started by 3 women to uplift our Black men. And I just think it's interesting that even with that, 3 women creating the hashtag in the movement, we still then had to create a separate hashtag to highlight women. So like we're saying, like, you know, we just wanted to first start the conversation by highlighting those 2 things because, you know.
Also, really quickly, I know you gave an example too about why Black Lives Matter instead
Yeah.
of All Lives Matter. I've seen, and I'm sure many of y'all have seen this too, the example of the houses where like someone would be like, there's a house on fire, like blazing, and everybody's like, but all houses matter. Yeah, all houses do matter. We get that, duh. But this house is on fire. And that's another way to think about it. But this is highlighting the issue that is on fire. All houses right now are not on fire. All lives are not on fire. The lives that are constantly being taken at the hands of police and racial injustice are Black lives. And it's not to say
Absolutely.
that nobody else matters. It's not what's happening here. But what needs to be highlighted is the house on fire. What needs to be highlighted is the race on fire. And that's exactly what it is. So that's why it's Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter. I watched a quick clip of a sermon. I don't know the guy's name, but I know he was saying like, anyone with a functioning brain knows that all
Mm-hmm.
lives matter. Like,
Oh
duh.
yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Like, yeah, like, duh. Like, obviously, like, I mean, I don't know what kind of human you'd be if you didn't think all lives matter, duh. But at the time and in history, we're seeing that it is apparent that Black lives don't. So it's one of
Yep.
those things like, all lives can't matter until Black lives matter, because if all lives do matter, then you need to consider the Black life.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
100%. And that's like literally, it's really that simple. It is
yeah.
literally that simple. Like earlier, I was texting with one of my friends, and she was saying that basically her coworker had like called out in the beginning of the week, um, and the reason being that like she literally said to her supervisor, "I can't breathe," and
That's
the
valid.
supervisor had no understanding for what that meant.
Right.
And so the
He
coworker
probably thought it was COVID. I'm gonna throw that out there because that's actually another, that, I mean, we can talk about that a little later, but in the midst of this, there's a pandemic that affects Black lives. But we'll get there.
100%. And
Yeah.
so she had to have it explained to her why, like, because all the Black coworkers understood immediately what that meant, but
Right.
it had to be explained to her why this person was calling out and taking like a mental health day. And then it just leads me to, which is like a point I made earlier, is that like this, yes, the situation of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd are like horrible. Like they're horrible and
Yeah.
inhumane. And this is just a collective of incidents. So like there is an emotional toll of being
Yeah.
Black in this country. There is an emotional toll of being a Black woman in this country. And a lot of times that the thing we don't talk about it. We talk about it amongst each other.
Yeah. Amongst Black women.
Yes, and Black men and like with Black people, we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
However, we don't always talk about it and highlight it to our peers and coworkers who are not of the same race. And so that experience becomes invisible, and also because of how we are forgotten in media and not properly highlighted and often stereotyped. Even when we do talk about it, it still goes unnoticed. And so part of
Right.
the conversation today is to highlight the trauma and the everyday instances we constantly have to battle, and the toll that it takes on your health, your mind, and your spirit.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, to your point, Esther, like I was watching, I forgot what it was. I don't know if it was a sermon, if I was reading a book or a talk, but I was watching something about how the pain and the trauma of our ancestors, it travels, and how like even today we still feel that pain. We carry that in the fiber of our being, and like even if it's generational, it's actually from your ancestors back in the day that carry that weight, that trauma, that pain, that hurt, and like it becomes a part of our fiber as being melanated people. And I think that's very important to just like, you know, bring up that like that ties to like the emotional toll that we feel. Like it's not for no reason. It's not just because of what you see. You physically ache, you physically feel sick to your stomach, you physically like can't breathe, and it's literally like the emotional toll and the fibers of our body and our being that come out, especially when we see this injustice over and over and over again.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. And I also want to say this to all my fellow West Indian, Caribbean people.
Yes.
When we say Black Lives Matter, when we say hashtag say her name, you are included in that. We are not separate, because this is something that is true. And, you know, that could be a whole other set of topic for another day.
Yeah.
But sometimes if you know who I'm talking about, it could be your
Yep.
mama, yourself included, listening. But like, there's a separation that some Caribbean, West Indian people like to do when it comes to themselves and African Americans. No, when we walk outside, we are all Black. The end.
Black.
Period. And a
Black.
story.
That's
So when
it.
we
They're
say
not like, oh, you're Jamaican, I'm not going to shoot you at the
Black,
stoplight.
the end.
No.
We face
What? No.
this. The only difference is that the boat stopped in different islands. The
That's
end.
it. That's it.
And so I just wanted to quickly highlight that. And also, so I spent the past 5 years doing like race equity work and doing different workshops and trainings. And when I say like the stories that people share were so powerful, but like the physical toll, like the health, you know, there's a term that was coined in the 1970s called weatherizing to explain this concept. But like, people literally become sick from dealing with everyday
Mhm.
institutional, systemic,
Mhm.
interpersonal racism. Like, I had people share in our workshops that they got alopecia, heart disease, stress, hair, like literally high blood pressure.
Yeah. Yeah.
One person shared, this one woman had a stroke
My
from
God.
dealing with this every single day in her job, and she never had a space to talk about it. So the
Mhm.
experience is something that she never talked about, and she suppressed all of that. And
Mhm.
you know, we're gonna cover the whole, you know, you don't want to come off like the angry Black man or the angry Black woman thing. So when you don't talk about it and you don't deal with it, and then it takes that toll on you, your health suffers.
Yeah.
It's the experiences that people don't get to see. The
Mhm.
fact that it literally, when we say it hurts, it's not just the emotional hurts, but it literally hurts
Pains
us
your physical body. Yeah. Mhm.
horrible.
Yeah.
When she shared that she had a stroke from this, like, it took everything in me not to cry. That is not okay. This woman was like, had to be in what, like her 30s, 40s.
Oh my Lord. Wow. Yeah. That's,
Not okay.
oh
Like,
my,
I think I wouldn't say like mid 40s or whatever, but either way, just
regardless, that's still like
actually no age
to have
would
a
that be justifiable. Like,
right, to have a stroke. I mean, regardless, to have a stroke is terrible, but to
yeah.
have a stroke that's induced by trauma, like, oh my God, like your brain just couldn't take it. Like that's too much to just take in. And
No, I
the
mean,
fact
you're right.
that,
I know, like, and I don't know, like, looking back, I mean, some of it could have been very racial. I know a lot of it was like harassment. I remember I had a job where because of like, you know, how clothes fit me and my body, whatever the case may be, I dealt with like a lot of stress in that position. And I had other friends who was dealing with the same, the place was just super toxic.
Right.
And a lot, and you know, now I'm thinking about it, a lot of the women who faced that kind of discrimination and judgment were all Black. And I remember literally having to quit my job. Like, this was like the best I've ever been paid in a position. Like, I was like, for my age, I was like, yes. But the environment was so toxic and so nasty that I remember literally one day calling you, Carrie,
Oh yeah,
on
yeah.
the phone because I was having a panic
And
attack.
you literally couldn't breathe.
Literally having a panic attack about
Yeah.
having to step into work. I loved the job, loved the work that I was doing, but the idea of having to be in that environment for another day literally caused me to lose it. And that is something that we, like, how do you explain that? How do you compromise that? Like, compliment that? How do you justify that to yourself that your mental health gets compromised for a paycheck?
Listen, that's
But
a
at
whole
the
nother
same
topic.
time, is that like, yo, not everybody can just say, you know, I walked away and quit. But at the end of the day, that's not a realistic situation
Yeah,
because
that's not a reality for everyone.
no,
No.
and people have responsibilities, kids and mortgages and rent. Like, you have to think about your livelihood. But at the same time, is if you die because of the stress of all of this, what
Yeah.
happens to, like, it's just an impossible situation to win in, to win at. But that's something that people literally grapple with every single day,
Hmm.
every single day.
Yeah, and I want to speak to being women and how I'm actually reading. I'm like in the middle of finishing a book that Esther actually put me onto, and there's a part in it that talks about like the strong Black woman, and I want to speak to
Woo!
this. I think when we think about these situations, too many times as women, we are the strong Black woman. We feel like we got to hold it together. We're the ones that hold our families together. A lot of people will say like, my grandmother, my mother was the rock
Yeah.
of the family. How many times you heard that? Like, let's be real.
Literally, when I think of my grandmothers, that's literally like my grandmother who
Mine
passed
too.
away.
Mine
That's
too.
she was literally this, like, in the dictionary, she's right next to the word strong.
There's a rock and all the grandmothers are there, like in the dictionary, like seriously. But no, like that's what I mean. And like even like when I think about my grandmother, she didn't express a lot of trauma or pain or whatever she was feeling. She didn't do that. She just held it all in and pushed through, pushed through, pushed through. And I feel like when we're talking a little bit about the trauma of being Black, especially when we think about like Black Lives Matter, we think about Say Her Name, we think about everything that's happening. Too often as Black women, we are almost like expected to take on this like strong Black woman persona. And like I just want to say to the Black women out there that it is okay to not be that woman. And
Ooh,
not just
repeat that.
today.
Repeat
It is
that.
okay to not be that strong Black woman.
Yeah.
I know what your family said. I know what you've seen mama do, what you've seen grandma do, auntie do. I know what you've seen because I've seen it too. But it is 100% okay to say, I'm not okay as a Black woman and I am not the strong Black woman today. It is
It's
okay to
okay
say
to
that.
not be okay.
Yeah, it's okay to not be okay as a Black woman. And I'm speaking specifically to Black women because like there's a difference between not being okay as a Black man and not being okay as a Black woman. Because a Black woman would be like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm good. Yeah,
No,
especially if you're Caribbean.
what you're
If you're Caribbean,
oh yes.
if you're Caribbean, forget about it. How you doing? You know that your grandpa, or someone just passed away in your family. Grandma, how you doing? I'm okay. I'm good. What? Girl, if you don't cry, if you don't break down and let us know that you are
And in
hurting and be
Caribbean
vulnerable.
households, the definition of being like a male provider is very different than it is
Yeah.
in America. So like literally the women are really the ones who
Yeah,
are
they're holding it down. And
holding.
like,
And what the thing too that people don't realize is that when we talk about fighting the patriarchy, for white women, that they're talking about fighting white men. For Black women, we're not only talking about fighting white men, but we're also talking about fighting Black men. And on top of that, our role as Black women is to also protect and uplift our Black men. So
right.
we
And
are
this is
battling.
a perfect example with like the George Floyd situation, right? That like it is almost an expectation that like we lift our men, and we're gonna always lift our men, right? We're gonna always do
Absolutely.
that without fail. We always lift our men.
Absolutely.
I do have a calling and a question and a challenge for the Black men who are watching. Where are the Black men uplifting the Black women? When I mean that, not to say that you're not, I mean like, where are the Black men saying her name? Everyone that I know that has posted Brianna has been a woman.
Really?
Yeah,
I
for the
haven't
most
been
part.
paying
Yeah.
attention to that, but now I'm like,
Yeah, or let me say, for the most part, yeah, I don't really know of any men that have posted Brianna, to be honest. Like, not like I'm actually thinking about it, like, no. But if there are men, it's not enough men. But you will have a rally of women in them streets talking about Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, like really going ham for like all of our Black men and Black boys. And like, we're gonna always do that for you because that's how we are. That's who we are as women and Black women as a people. But just it's just a calling. It's not to like criticize or like, anything like that. It's just a calling that if you are a Black man or if you know a Black man who is out there, who you realize have not said her name, like please just challenge and push them to like really speak up on the behalf of the women who have lost their lives to police brutality or the women who are losing their lives to injustice. Because I think like we're just so good at holding our Black men down and we don't always see a reciprocal. Not to say that we don't always see a reciprocal, and we don't always see a reciprocal in large numbers. The way you see women going hard for Black men in large numbers, we don't always see Black men going hard for women in large numbers. That's
it's interesting you say that because like yesterday, so Carrie and I yesterday we sat and do this amazing Zoom
oh my gosh.
call, and it was like
Shout out to Therapy for Black Girls. I just want to put that out there. If you guys have not followed them on Instagram, please do. I don't know her last name, but I know it's Dr. Joy. You can even click on her website and she has like a list of like Black therapists in your area. Just type in your zip code and you can find therapists. I found my therapist through Therapy for Black Girls. So I just wanted to put that out there, like get on that.
No, and that's really important. And I think too that like what they did yesterday is they put together the Zoom call, and the Zoom call had it was for Black women specifically to talk about the recent things that's been going on and how we're coping and how we're feeling. And it was literally 300 women. And
300. I've never seen
me either.
I mean, my heart was like, wow.
It was so amazing. Like I felt that's what really helped me with this week because it like uplifted me so much. But one of the women who was talking said that like, yo, as Black women, we're always uplifting our men and always being the strong ones. But who's uplifting us? I was like, whoa. And not to say that our Black men don't uplift us, because that is not that we're not generalizing right now. Like that is just not the case. It is more about the sense of that, like, because it is like it's been our role since the beginning of time, since slavery times, literally to play that role for our men, that sometimes as Black women, we don't know how to just, like Carrie was saying, say we're not okay and really put that vulnerability and even like going to therapy, which is a whole other episode we're gonna do about Black people in therapy. But like we don't always showcase to our men and to our partners and to our friends and people around us that we are struggling, because we feel like if we're not strong, somehow we're failing our families and ourselves. And so it's not because there's nobody there to uplift us. It's just sometimes we just don't know how to put that hand out there to say, hey, I'm not okay and I need help. And so it's really important that we do that, especially during times like these. And you never want to get to the point where it's taking such a toll and the trauma is so deep that it literally impacts your health or or kills you. Like it's just
everything we're experiencing right now. Some people might be more on the okay side than not, like more on the side of post-stress, or numbing themselves. And I promise you, what you don't feel right now, you will feel later. And when I mean later, I mean like, God forbid, during the next incident, God forbid, or years down the line when you are dealing with, head on like systemic oppression and racism, like at your workplace or whatever the case may be. So anxiety is one of those things that like, you don't always feel it in the moment. Sometimes you do, but sometimes it comes later on. So just like, I mean, we'll get into all that when we talk more about like therapy and stuff like that, but I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah. And also too, like whatever emotion you're feeling, like we just have to be okay expressing it. And that also speaks to anger.
Yeah.
So with as being a Black woman, we spend a lot of time suppressing our anger around white people specifically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of trying to make white people feel quote unquote comfortable, because we hate the stereotype of the angry Black women. I mean, the same thing goes for men too, because anytime a man gets angry, then he's perceived with the stereotype of being violent and somebody
Aggressive.
yep. So we just hate the stereotype, because just like anybody else is allowed to have human emotion of anger, so are we. And we spend a lot of time suppressing that anger, and that's also not healthy, because that also takes a toll too, because literally this stuff hurts, and of course it angers you. Like, and I'm not just talking about the police brutality, I'm talking about the everyday incidences of like going to work. Like, I had a neighbor, I don't live there anymore, but my former
Oh
neighbor,
my gosh.
oh my god, she was like, when I say, she right there in the dictionary next to red racist. Okay, like as in calling Black people the C word, racist, rhymes with moon, in case it didn't click for you. Okay, and this lady was so racist, and it literally used to aggravate me to go home. Like, after dealing with doing race equity work and training and dealing with all these different emotions and comments, the last thing I want to do is enter my building and have to deal with a racist. No, I want to be able to go home and decompress and be able to be okay. But then if you go out and you express that rage, then you become the violent one.
Black woman, the angry Black family, like all of that.
And they need to fear you, and then the police gets weaponized against you. And so we spend so much time having to suppress simple things like that. Like, I think even of like Serena Williams, I think it was like last year or 2 years ago, playing tennis, she got frustrated because she was like losing, or like something happened within the game, and she like expressed her rage and smashed her racket, and it became this whole thing. Oh, that's so unprofessional, that's this and that. Meanwhile, they had mad clips of white men, white women doing the exact same thing. Okay, so like, part of this highlighting this is, one, to make everybody aware that this is one of the experiences that Black women have to suppress and hide all the time. But two, Black women, it is okay to be angry. It is your right. And there's a lot of things we got to deal with that make you angry, and expressing that rage and saying I'm angry is okay. I'm not, please don't get me wrong, I'm not saying to anybody to be violent, so let's not confuse the two.
Right.
Expressing anger is okay.
It is what it is, because if a white woman can get angry, I can get angry too.
I mean, I think about like work situations, right? Like, I've, seen white like coworkers express like to their supervisors, yell and be disrespectful, and then cry about it, and it's okay. The minute I express a little bit of passion, not even anger, passion, you need to calm down. Like, what? Like, seriously, if it's unprofessional, then it should be unprofessional for everybody.
For everybody. There's just an idea of professionalism that is white and does not include Black people. Because
Say it again for the people in the back.
The definition of professionalism is white. Because, I mean, same thing, like, it's there's point. I say it one way, the white person says another way. I'm aggressive and the angry Black girl who is in her feelings and they don't see my passion. But the white girl is just like,
she cares a lot about the issues.
Deeply about this.
You're also highlighting code switching, because literally the way we look with
that is like switching. That's how code switching was born. Like, let's be real. Yeah, it was born out of realizing that, like, oh, so the way Becky did it, Carrie can't do it, so I gotta go, Hi, yeah, so my name is Karisha. How are you? Okay, cool. But with Esther, I'm like, yo, what's up, girl? How you doing? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right?
No,
Like,
how we talk and hang out with each other is completely different than
oh
how
my gosh, yes.
engage white people, especially in professional settings. And that is just a fact. I'm sorry. And not, once again, I'm not generalizing because that's not the truth for everybody. And I've met people who can, who don't do that. And that's great. I don't have that luxury in my professional settings to do that. In my professional settings, I do have to code switch all the time, especially with me having an accent. Lord Jesus.
Girl, you better listen. Like,
Yo,
even like
honestly, my intelligence is all the time questioned because the minute I open my mouth.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Forget that I have a master's and I got a bachelor's and I work my ass off for them. The minute I open my mouth because I have an accent, it's like,
It's like you like who
is
you're
there
not
validity
knowledgeable.
in what she's saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so that's like a whole other piece to it. But like, we literally spend time, like, okay, so the other day I was reading this article. Jay actually wrote it, right? And in the beginning, he says, I have spent the past 40 years of my, like, I've been on this earth for 40 years and I've never known what it's like to be free.
Mm-hmm.
And not just free as in like the definition of free, like as in being able to just let yourself fully be and truly yourself wherever you go. And
Yeah.
that is something that Black people can relate to so much because I'm the same way. Like, I have to always be mindful of my environment. We go to a restaurant, you got to try to make sure you're not to allow Black people in the restaurant.
Oh my God.
You're always restraining yourself because you want to make sure that you're not threatening and you're not, ghetto or whatever the case may be. And you're trying to always maintain a level of safety, not for ourselves, for white people around us. And so you never get to just truly be your full
But yeah.
self.
Because you're afraid of just that assumption or stereotype that's going to be made about you. Oh, they ghetto, they loud, they this, they that. So you're just like, oh, we too loud, y'all. I remember doing that in at brunch and stuff when you have too many drinks and you're all excited and you're like, yeah, da 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 da, and they're like, oh shoot, they looking. Hold on, we got to bring it down. Unfortunate, highly unfortunate. Like, why? You're right. We can never just be.
Like, it is so sad the stuff we got to go through. And one of the things is like literally, as Black people and as Black women, we need to start taking off the mask. Like, we need to take off the mask because we put on the mask to protect ourselves and
we do.
work settings, but really it's clearly not working because it's impacting us with stress and health. And even with us not wanting to stay in environments, this is the thing is that, like, and this is one of the things we always say to them is that you are sitting here putting the onus on us and why we're not coming through your doors, instead of asking yourself, why is it that people are not walking in? Why don't people want to work here? Why don't people want to be on my board? Why don't people want to, like, and the thing is, it's not for lack of aspiration because we have aspirations to be in leadership as people of color, like studies showcase this and be on board positions. But the problem is that we don't want to get in there and be your tokenized Black person. We don't want to get in there and have to suppress and mask ourselves. We don't want to get in there and be gaslighted. We don't want to be in there and have to deal with microaggressions. We don't want to have to just go in another space to deal with that because we have to deal with that every single place. Every single day.
Every day.
We wake up and step outside our house. You just don't know what kind of day you're going to have. So at the end of the day, it's like you want us at the table. We want to be at the table too, but you got to be willing to do your work to make sure that your environment is like inclusive, equitable, and then we'll come in the door because people always want to say diversity, diversity, diversity. Diversity means nothing. That is safe. That is optics. Okay, we can all be diverse in a room and that means nothing. But do I feel valued here? Is my voice important? Do you want to actually hear what I gotta say? Do you want to be challenged? Do you want to actually talk about race equity and why the system is racist? Do you want to actually solve these issues? Do you want to create a space that is inclusive for everybody? No, then you don't want diversity. Okay, you don't want diversity.
Yeah. Because it's more than just that pretty little word that you just slap on a mission statement. It's very important that if the statement is going to be put out there, that you're living up to that statement wholeheartedly and not just the part that sounds nice, because diversity sounds nice. But we want to also make sure that we're, whatever organization it is, you want to make sure that you're actually diverse. So your board needs to be diverse. The things you do need to be diverse. The conversations and the topics that you have also need to reflect that. If you're an anti-racist group, then that means the practices of your school, of your whatever, like your day-to-day practices, not what's written in that beautiful little
Yep. Your policies need to reflect
everything has to be
Yep.
anti-racist.
Procedures. Yep.
Yeah, because it sounds nice. Let's be real. Like, it sounds beautiful, but it's until you're like in the everyday, you're like, oh, you don't realize that.
Anyone can write a statement, but
Yes.
are you living and breathing the action?
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of like what's happening now with like the businesses that are taking a stand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that some of y'all may have seen like Jackie Ina's call for, you know, businesses to kind of reveal who their board is and things like that. So it's like, all right, for example, Fashion Nova, just random example, they can put out a statement and say like, you know, we stand in solidarity. Here's what we're doing. And then you never see who these people are and how diverse.
Even more than that, if you listen, I like Fashion Nova, so don't get me wrong.
I do. That's what I'm saying. It's just an example.
At the same time, something that occurred to me recently was like, wait a minute, I scroll on that page all the time. Where are the Black models? Because all these models are, you don't even know what they are. Really.
Don't get me wrong. There's some Black, okay, brown. Let me say brown. There's brown models, but what I mean like that Jackie Ina looking, milky, dark skin, where they at?
See them, and then too, you're right, you don't know what their board looks like, you don't know what their leadership team looks like, you don't even know what their staff
but Esther, they stand in solidarity.
Yo, no, I need it to be more than a statement. At this point, we need it more to be than a statement, because because the thing is, if you ask most people, are you racist? They're going to say no once again, because people think this is just,
who's gonna say yes? Come on, y'all, really?
You know, racial slur, whatever the case may be. I didn't call you a racial slur, and I'm not a member of the KKK, so no, I'm not racist. Okay, but then if you ask somebody,
or I have a Black friend. I have a Black friend. I'm not racist.
Bye. That is a form of gaslighting that pisses me off. So, like, don't even get me started on that. But like, if you are not racist, and then you ask somebody, that same person, are you anti-racist? And anti-racist is not just like a word. It's literally, are you every single day practicing?
It's a verb.
Action steps. Yes.
It's a verb.
Be anti-racist. Most people are gonna say no. So if you're not racist and you're not anti-racist, then what the hell are you?
There's no in betweens, just to put it out there.
There isn't any in between. So
pick a side.
Seriously. And at the end of the day, and this also goes for Black people, is because we operate and live in systems that are, and institutions that are inherently racist, we are agents in that system. So even as a person of color, I can be doing things every single day that is racist towards my own kind, and you may not even realize that you're doing it. So we have to really tap in and pay attention. Like, there are policies and procedures that have been created from like years ago and nobody questions. Like, we really need to start asking ourselves, like, when we're doing programs and when we're you know, servicing kids or whoever it is that is your community that you're serving, or whatever it is that you're doing, who's not at the table when we're making decisions?
Yeah, right.
Like, whose voices are not being heard? Like, when we're like, are we only inviting Black people to the table when we want to hear about the Black perspective? Because I can offer more insight than that. Please do not tokenize me.
Right.
Not diminish what I'm saying about when I talk about my experience, because that's the thing too, is like, we as Black people need to highlight our experiences, but when we do, white people, y'all need to just listen. You cannot diminish what I'm saying. You cannot change the subject. You cannot trivialize and minimize it. Do not gaslight me, because at the end of the day, those are my lived experiences. Just because it didn't happen to you doesn't mean what I'm saying is not true. I don't need to get hit by a car to know that somebody who just did is in pain and be able to say, yo, I know you're hurting because I heard you got hit by a car, so I know you must be in pain. I don't know what that's like, but let's talk about it. I mean, that's a stupid example, but like really what
Yeah.
I'm saying
No,
is,
it's actually a really good example. It's
don't,
actually a really good. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't diminish people's experiences because they're not your own. Like empathy goes a long way. And then even like the microaggressions that come with all of this stuff, and like,
It
or
is.
my favorite one, when I see you I don't see color. Please see me, I am a Black woman, I am Haitian, like I have an accent, see me, because when you tell me you don't see color, you're basically telling me you don't see me. Okay, unless you are colorblind, you see color. Okay, it is not a bad
Right.
thing. My diversity is my strength. You may not see it that way, but I see it that way. That is what makes me special and unique. Thank you very much. I'm
Mhm.
Black and proud.
You're right. Like if you are colorblind, you don't see me. And like I just want to speak to this one thing though. There's some people, Black people, who say that. And like what I think they mean is that they love all people, all humanity. They don't see color as in they don't look at the white person and say, "Oh, you're white," like, or like they don't discriminate because of the color of the person's skin. So, Esther, you can like please speak to this because I wonder if is that a bad thing? Is that a wrong thing to be a Black person and say I don't see color, not meaning you don't see color, like you don't see the Black person, the brown
Yeah.
skinned person, but meaning like I don't see colors. And like when I first operate with like when I first see people, I'm operating out of love, I'm operating out of grace, I'm operating out of humanity. I don't see you as white to discriminate you, I don't see you as Black to discriminate you, or as Indian or Asian or whatever. I see humanity, I treat you with the respect of just you being a human being. So can we actually just quickly talk to that,
Yeah,
because some people, Black people, people of color, I do know do say that
that's a
comment
really
right
good
there.
point.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the thing, right? The concept of color blindness is from the most like purest, well-intentioned place, right? The problem is that our nation was built on white supremacy and Black oppression, right? That is an undeniable fact of our world. And so until systemic racism, institutional racism, and Black people and people of color, period, are treated at the same fairness level as white people, when
Mm-hmm.
you say you don't see it, that's why we're able to in
Mm-hmm.
20 still have hashtags to highlight the fact that this is an issue. Black
To
people,
highlight the color, like
because if
Black
you
lives.
don't
Yeah.
see me and you don't see color, then you're not gonna see the fact that my experiences every single day are different from you.
Mm-hmm. So then what about the Black person that says I don't see color?
Honestly, this is my thing, right? Just because you Black don't mean you get it, okay? A lot of people are asleep.
Can you say that one more time?
Okay, just because you are a person of color doesn't mean you get it. For all skinfolk and kingfolk, okay, there are some
Come on.
people who are so ingrained into systemic and institutional racism, they do not realize how much they are agents in that system. So
Yeah.
when Black people say that, personally, I believe that it's not just up to white people to do their work and to educate themselves. I believe that Black people have to do that as well. That includes myself, that includes you. I know, like, for me,
Yeah.
in doing this work, like, my knowledge is like one piece of it, but I really still, there's a lot of books I have not read. There's a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
like, our Black history is something that's missing from me. And I'm trying to, one of the things I said for myself this year is to be more intentional about fixing that. But the education should never stop, because frankly,
Yeah.
if you stop learning, then you might as well be dead, because
Might
it's
as well.
impossible to
We
ever.
are lifelong learners. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I just think that, like, the myth that just because you're Black means that you're aware is false. It's
It
completely false.
yeah, it's 100% false, and it's false for the fact that I think about a lot about it. Sorry, I think about a lot of it with education, and there's a lot of educators who believe that because they are Black and they teach Black and brown kids that they get the Black experience. But I will be 100%.
Sis, you just highlighted something important. I'm gonna need you to reel back in, and repeat that one more time.
Just because there's a lot of educators who feel like because they're Black and they teach Black kids, they get and understand the Black, like their Black experience. And the reason I speak to that is because I actually grew up in the Bronx, New York, in a Catholic school. I went
Mm.
to Catholic school all my life. My mother paid for me to go to school all of my life. This is not a brag at all. what I am saying is that now I currently work in a charter school, a public charter school, where the kids that I work for and work with are in parts of the community that don't have families who could just pay for them to go to school, whatever, $6,000. I mean, not 6,000, but $600 a month or whatever the course is. Like, it is more of the communities that are low. It is the low income communities. It is the families who are on different types of services and things like that that need lots of support. So like, there is no way that I can walk into a classroom and like, oh, I'm Black and 30 of you are Black, so guess what, we here. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some experiences that are shared, but I cannot sit here and say I understand my scholar who lives in a shelter. I can't. And I have a lot of scholars who live in shelters. I cannot say that I do, because guess what? I never lived in a shelter. I lived in a house. So because I'm Black and you're Black, I can't sit here and say I understand you because you're Black and I'm Black.
Yeah, and because we're not a monolith. Like, we are all have different experiences.
We do.
And backgrounds. Like, I remember one of the places I worked, they like brought me into a meeting to talk about being the Black poverty experience, and I was like, I was raised middle class. I can't.
Like what?
I don't know what it's like to live in the hood.
Poverty, what?
Like that. Another form of microaggression, right there.
Yeah.
There's an assumption that was made about my upbringing because of the color of my skin, and also too the fact that like that's out of all the meetings you could bring me to, you
right, exactly, like for real.
So,
of all the ways you could have used my intelligence, like thanks.
But another thing you brought and highlighted, which I just think is so important, is that this is why it's so hard, I think, for white people to have this conversation and not feel attacked or get defensive, is that a lot of white people are well-meaning and well-intentioned, especially if they are in service jobs. Especially if they're in service jobs. That's educators, non-profiteers, doctors, etc. I call it the do-gooder complex, because if you dedicate your life to giving back and to helping people, it is much harder for those individuals to accept and have to deal with the fact that they might be racist and practicing having like racist ideologies in the way that they're engaging these communities that they're trying to help. But it's a reality, because your intentions may be one thing, but if the impact is harmful, you gotta own that. Like, remember when we were profiled, and we won't say the name of the store.
Oh, geez, I mean, not that I forgot, but you know, like,
you suppress
there's so many incidents that you just kind of push it to the back of your head.
We won't say the name of the store because we don't want no problems.
No.
However, it's a very famous store, and
it is unfortunate.
We were about to spend basically, let's just put it this way: the bill was racking up close to $500.
Before you get there, before you get to the bill, the cart. There was like 2 carts filled with lots of things. Like, I mean, like lots of things. So that was like the first, like, at least for the person, the white person, that might have been the first indicator of like what's going on here. The cart with 2 carts filled with multiple stuff, and then what you're saying.
Yep. And then when the bill started getting close to that $500 mark, all of a sudden a manager was called. Before any cards was pulled out, before any cash was pulled out, before any money exchange happened. Next thing you know, police was called, and they thinking this and that, and it's a whole situation. But basically, that moment, they didn't know I was Haitian and you were, Trinidadian. We were just 2 Black women spending a lot of money, and apparently that's, problematic because we must be thieves.
That was honestly, I forgot, not forgot, but like that was just so far in the back of my mind that like, now you say it, I'm triggered. I'm low-key triggered again. I'm like, because I remember like really getting upset and like, I don't know. That
was the thing.
You? Was it you? Somebody, it was either you or me in my internal dialogue telling me like, calm down.
It was the same time like one of those racial incidents happened. I can't remember whose life it was. It might have been Eric Garner. I can't remember. I just remember it was around one of those situations, and I said to you, yo, we cannot get rowdy. We cannot get upset because we have to make it out of here alive. And I remember they wouldn't give you, like, they had asked for your ID. They wouldn't give you back your ID. So I had to leave you to go get help from a friend to like figure out the situation. And when I came back, there was MAC cops there. And basically the manager of the store said that we were loud, rowdy, causing a scene and a threat to their store, when we never lost our cool ever because of what had happened the week of. All I know is that store is a chain and I cannot walk in any of them. Like,
absolutely not.
I know
They sending me emails. I'd be like,
this one, I'm just done. I'm done with the entire chain.
One and done. Like, I was like, so no. So
I mean, we share that story and we're laughing, but part of the thing that sometimes we also do as Black people is we laugh through our pain, because
I think that's the number, like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh right now, but like, I love us. I love us for that.
Honestly, that's one of our coping mechanisms, because
it is.
If that's the case, you'll be sad and depressed all the time, and that's
my God, yeah,
that's not good. And so, you know, we share that story with you, but part of the thing is that when we talk about our experiences, please validate, empathize with what we're saying. Like, it doesn't need to be your experience. Because I will never know what it's like to be a Black man. I will never know what it's like to be a man, ever. But when a man tells me about his experience, it is my job to just sit there and listen and validate and empathize with them, and
vice versa.
Exactly, because that's their lived experience, and it's not my job to tell you that's not your experience, because I have no way of knowing that. And for when you get called out for offending, even if that wasn't your intent, please own it and take accountability. Because I believe in the saying, I don't know what I don't know, right? Because we don't know all things. However, once you become knowledgeable, you are then accountable to that knowledge.
When you know better, you do better.
Simple. And then I would say for Black people, we gotta, the same with white people, we all gotta educate ourselves. We said that earlier, but I'm gonna say it again. Educate ourselves.
Educate. But you think you know, there's more you can know about that topic.
Absolutely. There's a lot of books out there. Let's read them. And then Black people, we got to practice self-care. So me earlier, that was meditation. On Sunday, it's church. Like, it's talking to my girlfriends and my other friends. Like, whatever it is that you got to do to like escape, do something. And then like one of the things we can do is like share some links. Black and white people. I have some resources available. And I'm pretty sure
resources for white people who want to know how to be a better ally and how and start educating themselves. I know, like, for some white people, it's like, where do I start? Where do I begin? And it's like
so many ways. One of the ways that and this goes for everybody, is donate.
Yes, donate is like to me, like the first easiest actionable way that you can start. Of course, you still need to learn the history, but like, if you want to know what can I do right now, to me, the two things are donating and then sharing, as in like finding ways to amplify Black voices through your social media and whatever platforms you have. Like, at this day and age, almost everybody has social media. So if most of your followers, as a white person, I don't want to assume, but like, if most of your followers are white, the way you can help support the Black community is by amplifying our voices through your page. So not just your Black square. I'm gonna put that up there because that's not enough. Not just your Black square, but posting the pages that you've donated to. Maybe speaking on your Instagram, Facebook to talk about certain things or where you stand on the topic, so that if someone DMs you with a different opinion, you can be like, actually, no, this is what it is, or this is what I believe and why. So like, use your platform is one, and then also donating will be helpful too.
Yeah, and then I'm creating spaces to have these dialogues is really important as well. And like, engaging in these conversations, listening. And the thing too is like, when it listening to the experiences of Black people and giving them the space to just like talk, and Black people also, for you, creating that space for yourselves to be able to talk amongst yourselves and each other. I mean, some reading, and like we said, donate. There's the Black Lives Matter, the NAACP, and just different things out there to donate to. And we can also share a link of that in the description box below. But also like, so I mean, engage in these conversations, educate yourselves, donating to the cause. Some people protest, some people
Some people
right.
are social media protesters.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too.
Some people are and it's
activists.
okay. I want to say this: it is okay to be a social media protester. Don't feel bad about not being out on the streets.
Whatever works
Yeah.
for you is what you got to do. But the thing
Right.
is, you just got to
Just
do
something.
something.
Yeah.
Like,
And
sitting around and being like, oh, I feel, because that's the other thing too, is like, don't feel guilty, because guilt is a useless emotion. If this is really not about taking action and being activated.
Right,
so
right.
Do something.
Right, exactly. And like for to what Esther was saying, if you are a white like person or ally who is listening, like in terms of like hearing the experience of a Black person, it's okay to not say anything. In terms of when I mean not say anything, I mean don't feel you have to have the answer to soothe that Black person's feeling in the moment. Like, oh, it's okay, I understand, or I'm no, like it's okay to just kind of like
listen and take it in.
like, to listen and take it in. And it's like it's okay to have that awkward silence. Like if anything, it's more awkward for you than it is for us anyway. Just saying. But it is like don't feel the need to have to say anything. Like just the ways that we mentioned are the ways that you could be supportive. And like although you may never understand this type of experience and this pain and this trauma, the goal here is that you stand with us. And there's one thing that I've been hearing a lot that I just want to point out. It's not Black against white.
Yes.
It's not Black against white. It is injustice versus justice.
Mm-hmm.
Those people who are on the team of justice, team justice, and the people who are on the team of injustice.
Because
that is what
about. No, you're right. Because it's not about calling out people. It's about calling
out the problem
and calling
the problem
in to solve the problem.
Right.
Systemic racism, institutional racism is not something that we created. It was created way before our times. However, it is our responsibility to work together to fix it. Just like we did not create air pollution.
Right, but we should.
But we can't just ignore it and be like,
we can be like, oh, it's not my problem.
No,
like no, I agree.
To solve it. And the thing too is, this is also important, is that part of this work is not to get all of us think the same. So do not think that the goal is to get all of us think the same. We know we think different. We have different backgrounds, perspectives, upbringing. Me and Carrie don't think the same. We are each our own individual people. However, it's how do we take these different perspectives, backgrounds, and work together to be able to solve problems. So,
yeah.
We said a lot today.
We did.
But honestly, it was necessary, and it was just it's an important conversation, and we're using our platform to highlight this topic. So that's one of the ways that we're taking action steps, is by using our platforms to uplift the experiences of Black women in this country.
And by no means is this conversation the only conversation to be had. This is honestly just the start, and we found it very important as Black women to address this issue in America, but this is only the beginning. And like essentially the whole purpose is just to get the conversation started, because for some people it hasn't started yet, and we just want to begin the dialogue around Black Lives Matter, around things that we're talking about with what it means to be a Black woman in America and things like that. So this is just scratching the surface. This is not even the deep end at all. We obviously we're the deep dive, and we're going to always go deep. And in what we talked about, we went deep, but not deep enough to solve the problem. So just know that this is the beginning, and the goal here is that you leave this conversation wanting to continue the conversation with people around you, with people who are different from you, with whoever, so that we can like make the world a better place and fight against the problem of injustice.
Absolutely. So we thank you for watching or listening, and please share with us your perspectives, your insight, because this is just our too low perspective in the world, but we would love to hear from you as well. And we'll see you next week.
All right. Bye.